thanks to the Arizona Diamondbacks, we don't even have to start the show with the loss to the Cincinnati Bengals. We can start the show with the Arizona Diamondbacks beating the LA Dodgers in LA in Game 1 of the division series 11-2, Tim. It was 5-0 before an out was recorded in that game.
Yeah, the D in D-back stands for dominating. You know, I had a chance on Friday, Luke, to sit in here with Wolf and fill in for you, and we were talking about everything that stacked up against the Diamondbacks in Game 1, right? You had Clayton Kershaw, who had literally owned the D-backs, especially at Dodger Stadium, right? I think his ERA was about 1.60 actually in 21 career starts. Then you had Merrill Kelly, 0-11 in his career against the Dodgers. Clayton Kershaw would be making his 32nd postseason start. Merrill Kelly, only a year younger than Kershaw, at 34 years of age, would be making his first postseason start. The D-backs were 5-24 at Dodger Stadium in their last two seasons, and so everything pointed to a Dodger victory. And I joke with Wolf, I go, you know what this means in sports? D-backs are going to win. Now, I wasn't totally serious. What I mean by that was half joking, right? But lo and behold, I mean, the D-backs go out there and they absolutely shell-shock Clayton Kershaw. I mean, here's the one thing, though, and I did say this in all seriousness on Friday. The one thing about Kershaw, when it comes to Kershaw in the postseason, you talk about a box of chocolates, right? You don't know what you're going to get.
I never thought we'd see that. But you're right. We don't know. You never know what you're going to get from Kershaw.
Literally, statistically speaking, when you talk about quality starts with a starting pitcher, right? Six or more innings, 3 or fewer runs, right?
Yeah.
He's about a 50-50 proposition when it comes to a quality start in the postseason. But that was above and beyond, right? I mean, to go a third of an inning, that was the D-backs, Luke. That was an historical collective bludgeoning. And what I mean by collective bludgeoning, get this little nugget. The D-backs were the first team in the history of Major League Baseball in the postseason to have 8 players in a lineup have at least one extra base hit in a 9-inning game. Think about that. A top-to-bottom lineup bludgeoning of a baseball team. No team in Major League Baseball history did what the D-backs did that night in the playoffs.
So we talked about this series and we had to do predictions last week. And my prediction was that the Diamondbacks were going to win because the Dodgers don't have any pitching. And they've won one game. So it's not we have to avoid falling into the trap now of, they won 11-2, this series is over, because it isn't. You know, and realistically, Clayton Kershaw's a Hall of Famer, but the Dodgers' best pitcher over the last few months is actually Bobby Miller, the rookie who's going tonight. So this series is far from over. But as much as I thought the Dodgers don't have pitching, because they don't, they don't have World Series caliber pitching this year. It doesn't mean they can't pull it together because they have World Series caliber hitting. I would have never, ever believed that Clayton Kershaw would get chased in the first third of an inning of that game. I was in Tucson for the Coyotes preseason game, and it ended, right? And a bunch of people were still right, and I'm just sitting there watching the game, watching the first inning, and I'm like, okay, how are we going to navigate this? Like, I'm recording it when I get home. I'm driving with other people who will listen on the way back. It was 9-0 before we left. It was the least dramatic D-backs win over the Dodgers in a playoff game ever. It was the least dramatic D-backs playoff win ever. It was like, okay, they got this.
6-0 after the first, 9-0 after the second. You talked about their offense, right? I mean, they certainly have the 2 best offensive players in the series, although Corbin Carroll certainly making that debate interesting. But Betts and Freeman don't have a hit in the game. I mean, so those guys were completely neutralized. And Tommy Pham, for 4 for 5 in the game, I mean, that's one of the better performances in postseason history for the franchise. I'm not sure anybody's had 4 hits in a postseason game before in the history of the D-backs in the postseason. So, yeah, I mean, what the D-backs did in one game. Now, of course, it's just one game, and you got a chance now to really put the Dodgers on life support in Game 2 tonight behind Zach Gallen. It's interesting, Luke. The D-backs, Torey Lovullo, the famous quote now, a connected team is a dangerous team. Look, this is also not only a connected team, this is a very confident team right now. I think the 2 comebacks in Milwaukee has the D-backs right now thinking that they are not invincible, but this is a team right now that is brimming with confidence. So now not only do you have to not come back in a game, I mean, you get out of the gate up 6-0, up 9-0 against arguably one of the better teams in baseball. It's funny, Torrey's playing the no respect card. And he's riding that horse. And Zach Allen even joked about it. He goes, Michael Jordan kind of made up stuff to find motivation. Kind of hinting that Torrey's almost making up this no respect card to find motivation for his baseball team. But it's working, and I'm not sure where the D-backs are getting the no respect card from. I mean, have people in that, what they may have picked the Brewers to win this series, but whatever the case may be, Torrey's playing that card and he's riding that horse, and if it's working, fantastic. Great. Continue to play it.
They were the biggest underdogs in terms of series matchups on FanDuel and everywhere going into the NLDS. I think they were like plus 190 against the Dodgers. But we've seen this before in baseball. We're seeing it this year. I mean, Texas is up 2-0 in their series. They were a wild card team. The Phillies look borderline unstoppable. They were a wild card team. The Diamondbacks, if you knew nothing else all season, if you're just like, here we go, the season started with the playoffs, the Diamondbacks are starting to look unstoppable, and they were obviously a wild card team. All of that stuff, like you said, Freddie Freeman, Mookie Betts, it absolutely can still matter. And if the Dodgers win tonight, you got a real series on your hands, because then you got Brandon Pfaadt probably going out there in Game 3, and you could be up against the wall going into Game 4. So I'm not trying to say this is over, but having those guys these guys are great over 162 games, and Freeman's great pretty much every game, and typically Betts is too. When it's a short series, if the other team's hot, or if your pitcher gives up all the runs that Kershaw did, it doesn't matter. This is not a best of 37 series. It's a best of 5. That's why this is very winnable.
No, and if you win tonight, I mean, the Dodgers they are on life support, obviously. And I talked about Freeman and Betts being, the two best offensive players in this series. But lo and behold, right now, Corbin Carroll, I mean, I'm looking at it right now. He leads all postseason players in runs, hits, total bases. He's second in homers and second in RBIs. So that's where Corbin Carroll is at right now, offensively speaking. So, it's funny, Luke, real quick. We talked to Buster Olney on Friday, and I brought this up to him, and we kind of chewed on it back and forth. It doesn't always play out this way, but historically speaking, we've seen this before with the wild card teams that had a scratch and claw to get in. Mm-hmm. And the D-backs have basically been in kind of playoff mode psychologically all of September, even to a certain extent after that 32-game stretch where the bottom fell out. Really, since late August, they've been in desperation winner go home mode for about the last 6 weeks of the season, whereas the Dodgers have been kind of in cruise control for about that same amount of time.
Yeah.
And so the mentality of the two teams coming in, where the Dodgers are sitting home waiting for the wild card series to wrap up, the D-backs go to Milwaukee. They come from behind. They scratch and claw. They win a couple games. So the mentality and the disposition of the two baseball teams going into Game 1, completely different. And the D-backs were the team that kind of had the we're rolling mentality, and the Dodgers just absolutely got waylaid by a Mack truck in Game 1 right out of the gate. And it looked like two teams that came in with very different dispositions.
It did.
And
now
played out that way.
And played out even a little bit more here before we hit the break. I mean, the Diamondbacks are absolutely fully in. We got nothing to lose mode. They're the nobody believes in us. We got nothing to lose. The flip side of that is, look, this is not a shot at the Dodgers, who are a consistently successful regular season team, and they did win the World Series a couple years ago. But I'm sure in L.A., especially if the Diamondbacks win tonight, it's going to be, here we go again. It's the playoffs. The Dodgers are great in the regular season. They lose in the playoffs. I'm not saying that yet, but I'm sure in L.A. that's a narrative right now, because that wasn't a close game on Saturday night. And it's one thing to lose, okay, we lost 3-2, the Diamondbacks got lucky. Now, that had to be embarrassing for the Dodgers.